Good morning, everybody. I'm going to try to keep this one short today. My last couple went on at some length. Hume on miracles. I think I can explain this one in short order anyway. It's a pretty simple argument, though the details get, detailed. So, let's cut to the chase. The basic argument of Hume's paper, first off, it's an argument against belief in miracles. It's not an argument they don't happen. It's an argument that you never have a good enough reason to believe you've seen one or that someone else has seen one. Okay? And maybe he's wrong, but if he's wrong, you want to kind of examine the reasoning and figure out where the hole was. This paper by Hume, it's from the mid-1700s, and it's been the target of defenses of miracles ever since. People call it the locus classicus, the central paper on that subject. How does it go? The argument's basically grounded in observation. It's grounded in probability and observation. So, if we know the future, which we don't, we know it with a little k based on what we've observed in the past. So if you're going to predict something tomorrow, you've got nothing to go on but what you've seen yesterday and all the days before. Okay? So, 100 marbles in a bag and 10 of them are red, your probability of pulling out a red marble is 10 over 100. It's a percentage, 10%. Now, that kind of reasoning, probabilistic reasoning, is based on observation. You look at the marbles in the bag beforehand, you dump them all in, and then so what you've seen before tells you what you can predict about what's going to come next, and the best you can gesture at is probabilities. What does any of that have to do with miracles? Here's what. When someone says, I saw a miracle, there's two possibilities. They did in fact see a miracle, or they're wrong. One or two. They saw a miracle, or they're wrong. Option one, let's examine for a second. A miracle is a violation of the laws of nature. If it weren't, it wouldn't be a miracle, it would be nature. Right? So if something didn't violate the way nature works, then nature did it. So to be a miracle, you have to break a law of nature. Rise from the dead. Levitate a train. Whatever. Okay, so what does it take to become a law of nature? Some scientist says so? No. Something becomes a law of nature if, in all of our collective past observations, we've never seen it go wrong. Yet. Now, might it go wrong tomorrow? Sure. But if we've never seen something get violated, go back to the marbles in a bag. We've seen 0 yellow marbles. We've pulled out 1,000 marbles, and we've never seen a yellow one. The probability that the next one's yellow isn't 0, but you wouldn't guess it's 0 if you've never seen that one before. So, how many times in your life have you ever seen a law of nature get broken? Not many, I would gesture. Okay, so the probability that a law of nature got broken is, based on your own eyes and your own experience, pretty low. Option two, so option one was a miracle happened, this person's right. Option two, this person's wrong. Their eyes deceived them. They got confused. They believed something they shouldn't believe. They got it wrong. They're lying. Now you ask yourself, and here's where you have to stop and really think clearly and fairly. Have you ever seen a person get something wrong? It's an easy question. It's more than 0 times in your life. How often? A lot. So you got two things on the scales. You've seen laws of nature get broken, never. You've seen people lie sometimes. You've seen people lie how much? Enough to think that people lying is not a violation of a law of nature. The probability that someone got something wrong intentionally or unintentionally is greater than zero. And it's always going to be greater than zero. The probability that a person makes a mistake is always going to be higher than the probability that the laws of science are wrong. That's the basic arc of his argument. He sets it up in, I think, a clever way. He's, in the first paragraph, aiming his argument at readers who do not believe in transubstantiation. He's Scottish, and Scottish people are not Catholic, and they were in the middle of a century of infighting between Protestants and Catholics about things like transubstantiation, what he calls in that paragraph the real presence. Let me explain that to you. The real presence is the idea that when you take communion, the Eucharist, the wafer, becomes the body of God. It's not a symbol of it. It's not in remembrance of Jesus. It becomes the body of Jesus. Now, Catholics believe in this. Most Protestants don't. And he's aiming his argument at Protestant readers who know he knows that's where he lives. So he's talking to Protestants and says, these Catholics over here tell you that when you eat this wafer, it is the body of God and not a wafer. So you have a choice to make. You can believe your eyes, it looks like a wafer, or you can believe their word that it's not what you see. So which do you choose, your own eyes or the word of a person? Which one's more likely to be wrong? The word of a person. People get things wrong all the time. If you generalize that about other people's miracles, I believe something, says this person over here, that violates the laws of nature, and you have to choose between what you think you know about the world around you and their word. There's no reason to take their word on it. But if that's right, then it applies across the board to all the miracles, including your own. Part 2 of this paper gets into some of the reasons why, in the case of talking about miracles generally, you should especially be on your guard. It's not just like a normal, a person says they saw something at the grocery store and, you take their word on it. When we get into this domain, people are more likely than in other domains to make mistakes. They want to tell good stories. Makes you sound interesting if you believe you saw something miraculous. Their biases get in the way. Take a look at part 2 of that paper and you see some of the psychology of why people believe in these things, and why we should be skeptical that they're necessarily thinking clearly. Now, again, this is not an argument that they don't happen. It's not metaphysical, we would say. It's not that they're impossible. They're perfectly possible. Anything conceivable is possible. We can't predict the future. It's an argument about whose word you should take on what. Should you believe the things you've seen work the same way your whole life, or should you believe the word of this person that now they don't work that way anymore? That's the basic setup of Hume. I'm probably, I put up a post a couple weeks ago, change the subject for a second. I put up a post a couple weeks ago asking if people wanted to do a Zoom class or Zoom classes, and then that sort of dissipated for a while, but some of you guys said yes, so I am going to communicate with you, and we're going to set up at least 1 or 2 of those optionally. You don't have to do them, because I know how hard it is with the current situation to get, a whole class worth of people together at the same time in the same room. But I'm going to put up one possibly this week or Monday of next week. And we can tie together any loose ends that we need to talk about face-to-face, just about the material of the course, but also just about, life and grading and final exams and whatnot. Hope you guys are doing okay, and this video and the readings and the discussion board will be posted shortly.